Right. Anyway, Borat 2. Wow. I never thought that was gonna happen. I'm not gonna lie. Did not think that would happen.
That's what I like so much about this. It just kind of came out of nowhere, which was really cool. Like, because the first one, I mean, like, I think we should probably start by saying, like, I am a lot older than you. Right,
Yeah.
that's fair to say. You are how old?
21.
And I am 32. So, like, there's a bit of a difference.
Yeah.
I remember the first one coming out and how huge it was. You know, I mean, it was such a big deal. And everyone went to see it. Everyone thought it was great. People were talking about the cinema experience of it. You know, people walking out of the cinema and stuff like that. You know, being offended, which is awesome. So
I mean, I guess there was nothing like around about that time that was that like kind of controversial. I mean, you had stuff like South Park, but in terms of like major like movie things, there was nothing that was kind of like what Sacha Baron Cohen was doing. Yeah, he did Ali G, but that was nowhere near as big as Borat.
And it's that mockumentary style, really, isn't it, as well? That's like so unique to him. Like, it's beyond mockumentary because it is a fake documentary set in the real world. So, if you have like Spinal Tap, is a mockumentary, it's all fake. Whereas this is a semi-mockumentary, I guess. It's kind of like a fake character interviewing real people. So it's that's quite a unique genre in itself, isn't it?
Yeah. So now that we've established how much we love the first one, what were your initial opinions on this one? Because I thought it was sick. I thought it was great.
I'm an easy audience for these things because that subtle mixture of, well, not so subtle mixture of cringy situations mixed with a character I find really funny is just the perfect. So I was laughing all the way through. I mean, like, it was like a Book of Mormon scale. Like my jaw was just killing by the end of it and I nearly lost I was drinking a bottle of wine at the time and I nearly lost the whole thing just by spitting it out. I loved it.
Honestly, it was just so funny. I mean, like, first and foremost, like, when you think of what makes like a good sequel, like, you always think of something that like builds upon the original but doesn't feel like useless or pointless or rushed. And I think it was the perfect time to drop a Borat sequel with everything that's going on. And like, it just felt like, especially after he's done This Is America, and there are a lot of times during this where you felt like This Is America was a massive influence, like especially when he's doing all the disguises and stuff like that. And
down to the way he holds himself and like his whole kind of demeanor. If anything, that was probably the only thing that I can really take away that said I didn't particularly love about it was that there was moments where I thought, would Borat the character do this? Do you know what I mean?
That's what
I know. I overanalyzing it a bit, but you know what I mean. Like, kind of like, for example, Country Steve. How does Borat just know a song? It doesn't really, you know what I mean. For the narrative of the film,
supposed to be,
doesn't really.
Yeah, because obviously he's supposed to be quite primitive as a character, and like I've actually got written down that that's my only criticism, is that it's kind of too much like This Is America in places.
Yeah,
but like I think it does play to its strengths as well, but also like there's a big chunk in the middle of the film, like when he goes to the gun rally and stuff, and there's a big chunk where it doesn't feel like Borat, but it's still funny. Like, it's still an enjoyable part of the movie, but it doesn't feel like Borat going and doing like stuff in America to, gift his daughter to Mike Pence.
The first one felt like it had a much more solid narrative. I can't believe we're saying this about Borat, but it felt like the story was more consistent in that respect. True. However, like in this one, it wasn't. There was moments where like I thought Borat suddenly is Country Steve and he kind of knows a song, and like you said, it was much more akin to his Ali G show or to the This Is America show, where it felt like at those moments a sort of a series of sketches rather than like. Like you say, I mean, obviously they weave it nicely together that way. He says, she's over there, and he sort of like puts that into the song and everything. So it is kind of genius the way they knot it all together. But yeah, I that's probably the only thing. But the thing is, I've seen this twice now. Once was inebriated and once was sober, and I think that didn't bother me at all the first time around because I was a bit drunk, so I didn't really notice the thing. I was just having a complete ball with it. I actually found it weirdly moving in parts, and I know that sounds really strange, but because of the satire,
the same, yeah.
You know, and not just because of the sort of the father-daughter thing, because I have quite a young son as well, so you know, there's kind of this thing about like, you know, when you become a parent, you become very sentimental. But also it was more the just the satire of it, you know, just when you just like, you know, the debutante's ball scene, for example, where they do the fertility dance together, and she shows off her like period stained pants and stuff, and it was just such a fuck you to those people who are basically auctioning off their daughters, you know, because that's what's going on there. And I just and I saw all those moments where it was just the lifting the veil on society. That's what I love so much about Sacha Baron Cohen, is that
that's the thing, like
he does it so well.
Yeah, I've got like in my head, it was kind of, I've watched it twice now as well. I literally watched it again today. The first time I watched it at like 2:30 in the morning, and it was like, this is great, but I'm also like really tired. But like the second time I watched it, I literally watched it today, like fully sober, just like I'm gonna experience this. And I was watching it with Megan as well. Like it was the first time she'd watched it as well, so some of her reactions, because she's only just recently seen the first one.
Is she a fan? I mean, does she like this kind of comedy?
Yeah, she really likes it, but like some of the stuff, she was like jaw on the floor, like with the whole what's his name, Luca, the ex-mayor of New York. I've forgotten his name. You know, the whole
Giuliani.
interview at the the whole interview at the end. She was like jaw on the floor, like, is this real? Like, how is he not in jail? Like all of this.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah.
Yeah, by that point, you're really kind of ready for that, aren't you? I think at the end, like, you know, they definitely saved the, I wouldn't say like the best, but they saved the sort of the most impactful moment till last, obviously. But for me, it was a series of strong, you know, satirical, revealing moments, as it always is, because, you know, he's always revealing, you know, just people's inner cruelty and nastiness and bigotry and, you know, everything as he goes along. I do worry that a lot of people will misunderstand the character, because I think that it's very easy for, you know, for imbeciles to sort of just see it as just, this is racist, this is just a, you know, the Borat character is just making fun of people from Kazakhstan, you know, and I think that anyone who thinks that has completely missed the point of what he's trying to do.
I think he's trying, he's obviously trying to like paint a picture of what America is like right now, and obviously coming off the bat of this is America. I mean, I was really surprised, to be fair, that he dropped the in my first initial watch of it. I was really surprised that they dropped the like the Mike Pence like gate crash of his event, like in the first like 40 minutes of the film, like first half an hour. I was really surprised at that, because from the trailer it looked like that was going to be this massive thing at the end, like they were going to build up to you know, gate crashing the vice president's thing. Yeah,
I thought it'd be kind of a double whammy, like him and Giuliani at the same scene, maybe, you know, or the same conference or whatever. But yeah, they sort of gave you a big one like early on, and you know, and again, just felt really sad, like, you know, for the fact that, you know, when you actually see footage of behind the scenes of a conservative conference like that, a Trumpist conference, just, you know, these are real people, man, you know, that go to these events and stand there and cheer and actually believe this shit, you know.
At the end of the day, at the end of all of like the controversial jokes and all the stuff like that, I think the thing that's the funniest thing about all of Cohen's stuff is like, these are real people, and I think that kind of, it, as much as it is scary, I think it's you almost just have to laugh at it, because it's so satirical. You have to just kind of have to laugh about how ridiculous it is that these things take place. Like that like interview you sent me with Colbert, when he's talking about how the stage got attacked when he was doing the Country Steve sketch.
Yeah.
Like when the word got out, and it's just so West that things like how people react to like those things, like, oh my god, there's an actor there doing a sketch about us, let's get our guns out and attack him, like.
Yeah, as he says, that this is the first movie where I wore a bulletproof vest, he says in the interview. Like,
you just have to be like...
It depends what mood you're in, I think. You know, it's one of those movies. And I think that right now with this election, I think it kind of cut a little deeper for me, just because I was like, in previous elections, it was kind of conservative Democrat thing. You know, even in the Bush era, you know, I don't think anyone had, you know, the same... Bush was, you know, we just knew Bush was an idiot. There wasn't really, you know, much to him. Whereas now it feels like Trump is winning people over at such a base level of like evil, ignorance and bigotry and the rest of it, that it feels more important now, I think, than it ever did. That
well, I think that's an interesting.
Wise up,
I think it's an interesting point because obviously at the end of at the very end of the film, it says "Please vote, or you will be executed," and I'm just like, especially with this. I know I keep going back to This Is America, but like especially with that release, like what, 2-3 years ago?
2 years ago. I looked that up actually, because I can't believe it was even 2 years ago. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, and then this as well. It's like almost like Cohen's just like, come on guys, like like this is what's going on. You can change it. Go do it. Like, I don't know. And then going back to your point about feeling moved in places, I've actually, like, I was thinking about it today during the rewatch. Like, Borat actually has his own character arc in this film, which I thought was like really like kind of unique as well. Like, he obviously goes from thinking all of these kind of ridiculous beliefs of like women should be in a cage and like
his
follow the manual,
misogyny, I guess. Yeah.
Oh,
I
love vagina
the manual.
has teeth.
That was one of my favourite scenes. We've not talked about her yet, but I guess we'll save that. We'll talk about her
we'll get to her.
Jesus Christ. But yeah, so you were saying about his arc, like his misogynist awakening, if you like.
Yeah, awakening. That's a good way of putting it, to be fair.
Yeah.
Like, it's so like, obviously, like, it's kind of an arc that spreads across the two films, because obviously his beliefs at the start of this film are the same as they were at the start of the first film, and then obviously, like, I don't want to give anything away if anyone hasn't seen it, but like, going to what he thinks at the end is just like, wow, like. That's a big shift in opinion from someone who's come from like such a small thing, and it's just a satirical character. It's like, to be fair, like, I knew something like that was gonna happen as soon as the character was as soon as the daughter character was introduced. But like, I don't know, the way it was done, it didn't feel cringy at all. It just felt, I just was just pleased. I was just satisfied with everything that happened. I didn't feel like, I wasn't sat there like, oh, this is so predictable, like, this just feels like an unnecessary thing to add to just, it didn't feel like filler.
Yeah, so I kind of felt that they both had a sort of a similar, a similar, what would you call it, kind of arc in terms of like they both had a sort of a bit of a revelation in their own heads and all that stuff. I did feel that Sacha's was kind of like, Borat's character was kind of less of a priority in this film. It did feel like Maria's movie. What was the character called again? I should remember the daughter. Tutar, yeah. So his daughter in this, his fictional daughter, is played by an actress called Maria. Do you know what her second name was?
I literally just looked up her name. I can't remember.
Some
but
notes, sorry.
she's only she's like a few years older than me, so she's like 24.
Yeah, and she looks quite young, and I guess that's why they cast her, because she's playing a 15-year-old in this, and she is such a match for Sacha Baron Cohen in terms of her performance and her just surreal, like, acting. She's just amazing in this film. She's so funny. I think she made me laugh even more than Sacha did in this film. Like,
she was hilarious.
Imagine finding. I mean, I know there's going to be lots of people who would kill to be in a movie with Sacha Baron Cohen, but to find someone of that level of performance and just fearlessness as well, you can tell there's no moment where they feel mismatched. Like they look like they're on exactly the same page in these situations that are, me and you would absolutely piss ourselves laughing or cringe ourselves out of the room, and go. But she just stays calm, stays cool, and doesn't break character at all. And it's an amazing performance. It really is. It's so funny.
Yeah, literally, it felt like this was like her fourth. It felt like this was her fifth movie. Like it was really strange. Like, obviously, it says like in the credits introducing so and so. I feel disrespectful now. We've totally forgotten her name, but like
yeah. We'll have to add that in the show notes later on. But I think is it only her? It's her first starring role, of course. But I think that she's been in like maybe a couple of TV things. Like she's like been in a couple of things. I don't know what country she's from. I think she's from a European country, but I'm not really sure. She's just amazing. Like, she's so funny. The scenes, because she's playing this. Her arc is that she starts off as Borat's daughter, who he finds, like in the first couple of scenes in the movie, that she completely neglected, like living essentially as like an animal in a cage.
All I had left with my livestock.
And my male,
my 2
non-male
cows,
son.
a pig, and 1 daughter.
He says non-male son. Doesn't he? Non-male son. Yeah, and it's just playing up to the sort of misogynist, like, the way that they treat women in this fictitious Kazakhstan place. Just to go off what we were saying before about, me hoping that people don't misinterpret the material, is that the way I've always thought about Borat is how Sacha Baron Cohen thinks Americans see people from Kazakhstan. So he assumes that naive Americans will, when they say someone's from Kazakhstan, they'll picture Borat, basically this misogynist, backwards, character who doesn't know anything about the Western world.
Well, he said before he enjoys playing into the hands of stereotypes, like with people like Country Steve, and you can tell by the people he like interviews and hangs around with in these kind of things. Like he likes to essentially target people who fit the stereotypes, and then kind of base his joke around them. But because the joke is around like real people and real stereotypes, it's more impactful in a way. Like when he goes and stays with those 2 guys for like 5 days.
Yeah.
I was reading about that, like he had to stay in character for 5 days in the COVID pandemic.
I thought they were like the most they were the most endearing conservatives in the movie, I thought, in terms of like, they were sort of, obviously they had some, they were Trumpists and they had like, some pretty backwards beliefs, obviously, but they were very kind to him, and they liked him. And so there's a lot of sweet people in the film as well. That's what's kind of nice.
That's the thing.
Like
there's
the
a lot
babysitter
of nice
character.
Yeah, I was just going to mention
the actual babysitter. She's real. She was just wonderful, man. And like, it's kind of a mixture of like, in this movie, I think it had a lot more sympathetic people in it than the original movie did. The original movie was full of villains, and then I think Linnell, the prostitute that he gets with, is an actress, so obviously that's a fake character. But in this, all the real people, I think there was more. Like and the old Jewish woman that he meets in the synagogue at the end. That was really sweet, man.
When she was saying like I was a Holocaust survivor, and they made him food, and she was just like,
give me a hug.
Like,
and
do I look like I have a long nose? Like,
it was actually, that was really sweet. And for people who don't know, Sacha Baron Cohen is Jewish. So that's kind of what those scenes makes it even more kind of I guess comfortable to laugh at, really, because that he's kind of poking fun at his own upbringing and his own people. I'm sure he's had anti-Semitic treatment in the past in certain ways, or his family probably have. So that's really wonderful stuff as well. And his Jewish costume is amazing. He's got like the money,
the bag of money, and the bonus.
And the nose and the puppet that controlling the puppet master.
Oh my god, that was amazing.
That cracked me up so much.
I'm gonna rewatch it now as soon as we finish.
I'm literally gonna watch it for a 3rd time tonight. I think it's just it's wonderful.
But I think there's a good mix of in terms of the real people. There's a good you do have some genuinely like not nice people. Like the plastic surgeon was a bit of a creep, and then you had
my god, yeah.
And then you had all of the and then you obviously had the mayor. I keep forgetting his name.
Rudy Giuliani.
Giuliani, that's the one. You obviously had him, and then you had Mike Pence, but he didn't do anything. But we all know Mike Pence.
Pure evil.
And just that entire like conference. I mean, I don't know if you've seen any of Spitting Image, but
I have actually, and it was much better than I expected. I really enjoyed it actually.
I don't want to get off on a massive tangent, but the puppet that they use for Mike Pence is just hilarious.
It's the blue one, isn't it? It's just completely
that really blue, really skinny alien.
I loved Dominic Cummings in that, and he's like an alien.
Oh, it's like the Overlord.
Yeah, can I
eat prosper?
Yeah. It's like the larvae flourish when confined to their hexagonal pods. But I mean,
what are you going? Oh man.
It's brilliant, and he's got like the sort of the alien ruff, and he's like, "Can I eat?" He tries to eat Boris Johnson's baby.
Yeah,
it's amazing. Yeah, really funny.
But like obviously it does have a good balance of people, but then like you were saying, it does have some really nice people in it as well. I'm trying to think back to the even the smaller characters, like even the guy who just runs the fax machine.
Oh yeah, he was great as well.
And he just kind of stands and just like accepts these messages. What do you want to send? Sup.
Sup.
Okay.
Yeah. And I love that when they say you're not going to be executed by being pulled apart by cows, and he's like, you're going to live, and he gives him a high five, and he seems like genuinely happy, like, you're going to live, Borat, like, yay. Yeah, amazing. And obviously you have to take into account that they've got a camera in front of them, so they are
so they know something's
on their best
behavior.
Yeah, but at the same time, yeah, just the fact that that was a brilliant scene. The whole thing was just great. I'm just beaming. I just love thinking about it. It's making me laugh. It's just fantastic.
Yeah, it's just thinking about how bad this could have been. Like, if you'd have said like five, I think the timing of it's really important, because if you'd have just said to me like 5 years ago, especially the short notice as well, because it was like a month ago, Borat 2's coming out. Like, there was no build up, there was no press release or like giant marketing campaign.
No, not at all.
And if you'd done that like 5 years ago, like Borat's coming out in a month, I don't think it would have been as successful, and I don't think, especially with the material that he would have had available at the time, I don't think.
Well, comedy.
I don't want to say
comedy triumphs in adversity, doesn't it? Like when you have.
Yeah.
So it's difficult to be funny when about Barack Obama. He's not really pervious to comedy, really, because he's just a nice guy, a decent guy, and everything. That having, it's like all comedy is critical, basically. So like, if you have a character like Borat, like you say, it's much better in an environment where Donald Trump is president, because like, it's much easier to be funny about tyrants and and ridiculous.
There's more material. Yeah.
There's more material there. Yeah, like what are you going to make fun of Obama? Like, he just does nice things and runs the country fairly peacefully, like, it's like there's not really much to make fun of there, really, so it's like, but with Trump, I mean, is almost beyond parody, but somehow what Sacha Baron Cohen does really well with the Borat character is pretend that he's on his side, so he's kind of like, I love that about all the marketing was saying vote for Trump, and and then you're thinking, oh shit, Borat's on his side, that means he's really terrible and backwards.
Yeah, it kind of adds to like the stereotype and the humor of the people who like believe in his values and stuff, and it's just like, when he was saying McDonald Trump has been voted in with classic American values.
Yeah, exactly. And it shows the picture of the Ku Klux Klan, or the right wing guys with the Confederate flags and everything like that. And yeah, we were talking the other day about how funny when because part of Tutar's her sort of arc is that she wants to be given to a powerful man like Donald Trump.
Are you on about Melania, the Disney film?
The Disney film. That was so brilliant.
God.
Like, it's basically like it's a Disney film, the fictitious Disney film that she's watching, where it's like a cartoon, obviously it's animation, and it's Donald Trump is like at a ball, and it's sort of like Beauty and the Beast or something, an amazing gold palace, and Trump in all of his like gear, and he grabs Melania by the pussy and dances with her, and it's just, and she's watching it just like, oh, how romantic. It's just brilliant. Like, it's so funny.
It's so funny. It's just the way he looks in that as well. And like, he's massive and like
just really broad and he looks. He fits very comfortably into a cartoon, avatar, doesn't he? Like,
I mean, he is a bit of a. My mate said when he won the election, my mate said he's just kind of a joke, really. Like, he fits the stereotypical like cartoon villain. Like, he lives in a tower that's named after himself.
Yeah.
Like,
have you seen Back to the Future 2?
Yeah.
It's Biff. It's a Biff Tower, isn't it? Like, it's literally, Biff. The whole thing came true. Basically, it's like that was. I guess you could say it was kind of a little bit at the time based, because Donald Trump's been around for decades. Obviously as a real estate tycoon and businessman in New York. He's always been well known for decades. He's nothing new. But so like that I guess in Back to the Future I think it was filmed in like 1989, the second one around that time.
The first one's 1980. Well, the year's 1985 that they go to, but it's I think it was 1986 when it came out.
Yeah, that's right.
So the second one is like 88-ish.
They filmed them back to back. I know that. I remember that was fascinating that they did the second and third one back to back. Can you imagine making like a sci-fi movie and a western at the same time?
Yeah, the same film set, just like right, we're gonna do the shot of the train, a full-on steam train, and then we're gonna go to flying cars tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. Michael J. Fox, ain't no one getting sleep around here. But also just another fact that I always find fascinating. Do you know Jim Carrey did The Mask, Ace Ventura, and Dumb and Dumber in the same year? So he filmed them all in 1994. Isn't that amazing?
Man, I did not know that.
Yeah, man. What a workload, Jesus Christ.
I know. Well, speaking of work, you must have. I mean, I don't know much about the filming for this, but he must have done most of it in secret. I mean, he was filming stuff during the pandemic, and like, obviously that was in like, I mean, obviously the pandemic's still going on, but like,
I wonder if
that was obviously in like,
they started before the pandemic, I assume, because that's part of the plot. But I guess they have to with all the travelling that they're doing and everything. I guess that the pandemic would have come along during filming, and which makes it very interesting because I wonder what the movie would have been like without the pandemic if that hadn't happened.
I wonder if they adapted the story around that. Like,
I imagine so.
Yeah,
but
it's
they
probably
were just
like, we're just gonna go to. Yeah, we're just gonna go to America for like this much time and just film Borat 2, and then if what happens. Turns out a global pandemic happens right in slap bang in the middle of it. It's like goldmine material, really.
Yeah, which leads to one of the best things about the movie. But I don't know. I mean, how spoilerific do you want this to be? I don't know. Like, if we can talk spoilers, or you want to keep it fairly spoiler free.
If you want to avoid spoilers,
this is your warning.
This is your warning now. But yeah. Proceed. The
movie is great for people who have watched it who know the spoilers. At the end of the movie, at the beginning of the movie, when they send him off to America, the surgeon comes over and injects him with what he says are gypsy tears to protect his body from disease. It turns out at the end that the Kazakhstan premier's plan all along was to inject Borat with COVID and send him around the world, and then finally to America to spread it to everywhere. So basically, Borat started COVID, which I didn't see coming at all. And I did not see that. What a logical thing to do! Like, that was just such a brilliant plot point because it's the height of bad taste, if you like, and the height of sort of like that kind of satirical humor. And I just thought, this is what a brilliant way to go, and that was just such a brilliant. When I thought the film couldn't get any better, it just drops that at you at the end. It's just brilliant.
It was so like, and when Tom Hanks is in it for like 2 seconds, obviously Tom Hanks was famous for being one of the first celebrities to like come out and be like, oh yeah, I've got COVID, I'm isolating, and then there's just a scene of Borat just coughing all over him, like
shaking
the actual Tom Hanks there,
and the Sydney Opera House in the background, like where he was isolated, wasn't it? Oh man, yeah, that was great. One of my favorite characters from the original movie was his producer Azamat Bogatov. And at the beginning, he was like, he demands his producer. He says, "I won't go without Azamat," and then he says, "That's impossible." And he's like, "Why not?" He's like, "You're sitting on him," and he stands up, and there's just this dick like sticking out
on the chair,
leather chair. Man. And Azamat, as everyone knows, the actor, was like pretty fucking large, like had a lot of skin, a lot of spare skin. He's a brilliant guy. Like, he's an American, the guy who plays Azamat. And he owns like his own restaurant or something in New York. Yeah. And he's interviewed, if you watch on YouTube, you see it, and he's just the funniest guy. Like, you can see he's just like game for a laugh completely. But he played that role so well, and that's what's great about these films, is that the performances are all just kind of like, really believable in their own way.
Everyone just fits their roles like so well.
Yeah, they never drop character at all.
I mean, obviously the only real character, like the only like real people acting in this one, to be fair, are just Borat and his daughter. Like, it's kind of the only two characters, but it just genuinely feels like they're as real as the real people. And I know we've talked about how good the daughter is, but like, I just want to emphasize to people who haven't seen it, like, it's really good. And if you haven't seen the first one, I mean, it is just one of the funniest movies I've ever seen, hands down. Like,
I'm glad you feel that way, because like, it's always been one of my favorites. So all these kind of these guess I don't know what you would call it. I guess it's kind of is a semi mockumentary, should we call it?
I would say, yeah, it fits into that kind of mockumentary like folder. Yeah.
Talking about age again, if we go back to just talking about how old I am, going back to 99, 2000, sort of that kind of time period when I was just starting high school, or like just before, Ali G came out, which is called the Ali G Show. That was the first show that Sacha Baron Cohen ever did as that character. He'd been on TV before, but just as a presenter, he hadn't actually done any sort of character stuff. And it was again just groundbreaking. Like, it was amazingly funny, and he was pointing out like all those kids in your neighborhood who just tried to be black and listen to hip hop and were just completely delusional about who they were and stuff like that, and it was just amazing, because I knew people like that growing up, who were like Ali G, and stuff. And just like, come on, dude, like, you're a white guy from like a middle class neighborhood in Manchester, shut up, but yeah, so that was great. And then from there, Borat became a part of that show, and
he was like a sketch in the Ali G Show, wasn't he?
Yeah, he did that thing that comedians do where they think they haven't got enough for a show, so they kind of expand and do different characters. And then Bruno also was a character quite early on in Sacha's career, and you're a fan of Bruno as well, aren't you?
I don't think Bruno is as good as Borat before like the hate comes in the comments.
Yeah.
But no, I think Bruno is also hilarious. I know it's not as highly rated, and I know a lot of people think it's quite cringy and stuff, but I think, as much as I think Borat is a lot more clever and a lot more like satirical and more, especially with this one as well. I think Borat 2 is obviously a lot more like politically current. I think Bruno is just straight up just a funny film. I don't think it's anything more. Like, Borat is kind of this something more and a bit more smarter and a bit more clever, but I think Bruno is just funny. Like,
yeah, because I think that if I don't know, I'm not speaking for him, so I don't know if Bruno is an attempt to eradicate homophobia or bring homophobia to light. I'm not saying it is a homophobic film. I just don't think it does as good a job as being satirical about that stuff.
No, I don't think it's as
Whereas like Borat, 1 and 2, I think really drive. It's got more of a message to it. I think the satire is really upfront for you to see. And I think with Bruno, it does play with stereotypes, and obviously, and that's like why it's funny, because he puts people in awkward positions and sort of like in this super stereotypical sort of homosexual character, and how people deal with that. But I don't think it's got as much to say. I think it's again, I love it. I think it's really, really funny. At the beginning, when the Universal logo comes up at the beginning, and you get that trance techno music over it. Just I remember being in the cinema and watching it, and just laughing, just from the start. Just even with the Universal logo, I was laughing already.
It's not even the stereotypes in that movie that just made me laugh. It's just obviously his whole character is like he's a fashion designer. It's just when he makes the whole suit made out of Velcro, and then just collapses the entire set. Mate, that makes me like piss myself every time. It's so funny.
Well, it's just those. I think that movie, like fashion people, like it's so great to see them just to put literally like a rat amongst the pigeons, or a cat amongst the pigeons. Sorry.
I think that movie. I think Bruno's just a lot more ridiculous. I don't like. It's just super silly. And like, it's really funny because I enjoy comedies, and I just think that movie is really funny.
One of my favorite moments from Bruno is where he has, is it Paula Abdul round to his condo, and he has the sushi served on the Mexican guy in front of him, and they sit on Mexican people and use them as chairs, and he says, "How important is your humanitarian work?" I just thought it was just a brilliant moment, and she has to then answer that question with sitting on a Mexican eating sushi off another one. It's just, I mean, that framing is just, what a brilliant scene.
So good. I mean, what's the other movie he did? I mean, The Dictator's it's not the same, is it? I've not seen that in years, actually. That's more. I was very disappointed with that, to be honest. Yeah, that's just a complete fake movie. I mean, it's him and it's his kind of sense of humor. So it did have some funny moments, but it was just like, it reminded me a little bit of The Love Guru, which was Mike Myers' second attempt. It was just a character that just didn't have that much point to it, really. It just like, it's got kind of like an Adam Sandler movie vibe, where there's some funny moments, but like the characters, like his character just generally in his movies is just very like meh, just very like
yeah,
plain.
yeah. It didn't
It's
do
just
it for me.
always just a guy, like.
It felt like him dumbing it down, really, and I think that, Ali G and Bruno and Borat were never really dumbing it down, even though there was lowbrow humour and toilet humour and stuff in there.
Yeah.
What he was actually saying was, with his making a statement was really intelligent. And I actually remember watching the Ali G show, when I was a kid, and Sacha Baron Cohen was sat in an interview with one of the lecturers of the University of Hull. And I remember my dad saying, knowing that Sacha Baron Cohen went to Oxford, saying, "Isn't it funny that Ali G went to a better university than this guy?" And I was like, "That's true. That's completely true." And that was a wonderful moment.
The Ali G, that's another film that he did, like Ali G in the House, which I just totally forgot about until you mentioned the show, is also really good. Like,
I love that film. It's my complete guilty pleasure. I think it's hilarious.
There are so many ridiculous jokes in it, like when he just goes down on the Queen, just randomly. Like,
why not?
It's so ridiculous, but it's also just. I think a lot of the stuff with Sacha Baron Cohen's films is like a lot of the jokes are just really silly, but the timing is always so like spot on. Like everything, like, it's timing, the same in this film.
You're right about
like
the timing,
everything happens at the right time, and it's always edited really well, and just like yeah.
I really love Ali G in the house. That the bit where he's in the cabinet room and he's got like his necklace. It's got like a mirror sort of thing on it. He's just shining it in the Prime Minister's face, just for like just the childish sort of stuff. Like it's just stupid, but I just love it. It just cracks me up. And again, it was that kind of. It was like early high school humor for us. It was like that thing where basically scary movie. It was like stoner, like being a young stoner. So it was like scary movie. Ali G in the House, Jay and Silent Bob, those three. There's the three right there. We just watched those on repeat. They were just like the flickers, just laughing. It was just brilliant.
See, I was quite late on to Borat. I only really watched the first one when I was in college, so that's like
2 days ago. When were you in college?
I was in college.
Now? Aren't you in college? Oh, no, you're in university. You're in university now.
Yeah, I'm in masters now. So I was in college in. I think I watched the first Borat in 2017.
Wow. Okay. So.
Not 2017. Not 2017. 2015. But still.
Right. Okay. So how old would you have been? Like 16, I guess. When you
I would have been like 16, 15 when I first watched Borat. Yeah.
So I was born in '88, and the first movie came out in 2006. So I can't do the maths. How old would I have been then?
You would have been
like 18.
Yeah, you would have been 18, yeah.
Yeah, so I would have been older than you when you saw it. So that's that I should have probably found it less funny than you. Because if you were more juvenile.
I think that I've actually found the first one funnier. I've actually, well, let me rephrase that. I found different parts funnier than other parts as I've got older.
Yeah.
Like the first time you watch it, you're like, oh yeah, like the whole stuff with Pamela Anderson's like, really funny. But that's the thing with the second one. I find there's a lot more stuff that, as someone older, I find like a lot funnier. Like if I'd watched Borat 2 when I was like 15, 16, I probably wouldn't have found it as funny as I do watching it as a 21-year-old and being like politically aware of what's going on and like aware of stereotypes.
I think the average kid now is probably more politically aware than me or you would have been at that age. But however, you're still not that arsed about politics.
No, there's only so bothered you can be. But like just as someone who's like around around and politically aware and like actively engaging in the information age, like.
Definitely. It's a movie of its time, definitely. Like you said before, it's definitely a movie of its time. And it's going to be such an interesting time capsule to look back in 30 years.
I think it's
a
perfect time capsule. Like, my mate was saying that we were talking about this the other day, and he was saying he found this funnier than anything that he's ever done before. And I was saying, well, I think that's more because a lot of his stuff is always kind of centered around what's going on at the time. And this is like the one release that you've been fully like around for. It's the kind of the same thing as when is when you get into a band and say that band has already got like 5 albums out before.
Yeah.
If you're around for like one specific album release, there's always going to be like that album's always going to have a soft spot in your heart. Regardless,
Definitely.
it could be awful. It could be really crap, but like if you're around,
it's
for
terrible.
that release,
It's mad. It's terrible to say, but like, you're absolutely. I agree with you. If you show me a band now and I see they've got 8 previous albums, and you played me the latest one, for example, and I love it, it's going to be quite daunting for me. And I know that sounds like silly, you know, because obviously you shouldn't be afraid of that. But however, with say something like System of a Down, who are my favourite band, I got into them when Toxicity came out in 2001, 2002. That time they only had 1 previous album. Which was released in '98, so it was really easy for me to kind of just go back and listen to that one, and then I progressed with them. That you could argue that's the perfect kind of way to get into a band, because you got the first album, you got the second album that's new. Then you go back, you discover their past, and then you've also got the albums to come. In System of a Down's case, there was only 3 more albums to come, unfortunately. But there we are.
Do you think that if someone got into obviously a lot it's the same with any film release, but this is going to be a few like late teens, early 20s, this is going to be the first time a lot of people see Sacha Baron Cohen's like material, like being as they're around for the like all the the Trump and the material that this movie's based on. Do you think that someone would find, like, if they enjoyed it, do you reckon someone would enjoy the earlier stuff as much? Or like,
I think you could. I think there's going to be a lot of people who don't think this movie is as good as the first one. I've just got a feeling that that's going to be the case. As we said a little bit about the narrative structure. I don't necessarily. I think they're both great at the moment. I can't really pick one over the other. That's a really good question, man.
It is a tough one.
I think there's I don't know. I think that maybe someone who gets into Borat 2 and loves it and thinks it's great would not be so much into Ali G or The Dictator. They might think, what's the point of watching a fictional movie? It was kind of a bit like that for me, because we started with Ali G Ali G show, which was real. We had real interviews with real people. When the movie came along, it was a bit of a turn-off for certain people, because they were like, this is not the point of Ali G. The whole point of Ali G is that he is in character interviewing professors and policemen and whoever, on the street. That's why it's funny. And I disagree, because I thought the film was very funny. But, I can understand that argument. So, yeah, I don't know, really. I think it's one of those people, it's a bit like Jim Carrey. If you like, The Mask, you're probably going to like, Dumb and Dumber, or, it's that kind of thing. Like, if you like him, you'll like his movies, I guess.
I mean, Sacha Baron Cohen is one of those guys where he's got a very like certain specific style, like Jim Carrey. He's one of those instantly recognizable people. Like, he's got specific characters, maybe not as much as other comedians, but he's definitely got a certain like comedic style that some people like agree with, not definitely. Agree with, like relate to, find funny. Like, you can't agree with Borat, but like.
Yeah, you very rarely agree with Borat, and if you do agree with Borat, then you need to look in the mirror.
Maybe towards the end of the second film, if you agree with him then that's fine. But like,
yeah, he's had nearly a complete turnaround by the end of that movie, and he's a great guy by the end of it. The thing is that's interesting though, because I once saw on a review of Borat, the first one when it came out, it called him lovable. It's like naive and lovable Borat, and I was like, that is a really good point, and that's the difference between, I think, Borat and Bruno, because Borat's character is racist and xenophobic and homophobic kind of, and misogynist, but he doesn't mean to be. He's not got any. He doesn't wish any harm on anybody. That's what he's been taught.
Yeah,
whereas
it's just
Bruno,
his tradition. Yeah.
It's just his tradition, in his character. I can't believe we're talking about analysing this, but with Bruno, it's very important. But with Bruno, he is narcissistic and rude, and he's not a lovable guy. That's the difference.
Not, yeah.
So
totally.
So agree. I think that's the thing with Borat, and I remember seeing that in a review. It said naive and lovable Borat, and I thought, oh yeah, he is lovable, isn't he? Because he's trying his best. He's not trying to be mean or destructive or anything. He's trying to be nice to people and meet people and impress people and introduce them to Kazakhstan. it's so that's the difference really, is that someone is blind and naive. They don't know, but they're trying their best, to be. So you kind of feel sorry for him a bit.
I mean, his character is just he's really, especially, well, I think this is more evident in the first one, but he's just a really patriotic journalist who just wants to like go and like like show off their country in a way. Well, not really show off, because the first one's obviously about like him
learning
learning from the US to try and improve Kazakhstan. But then obviously in the second one, it's like trying to like improve Kazakhstan by like because he ruined Kazakhstan.
Yeah, he thinks that his mission is to basically kind of apologize and give a sort of a condolence to the American government somehow.
Whereas Bruno is like trying to get his fame back, isn't he? Like he lost everything, so it's all like Bruno's all about self gain, whereas Borat is about like helping others, and then he's obviously helping his daughter later on, and he is definitely a lot more
for better or for worse. Yeah, for better or for worse, he's completely backwards and completely naive and and wrong, but he doesn't mean any harm to anyone, apart from maybe Jews. But but again, that's the whole point, is that he's been brought up wrong, incorrectly. So he thinks that people are evil when they're not.
Going back to reviews, I think this is an interesting point, to be fair. I remember mentioning this to you the other day. Like, there was a review that said it's really funny, but if you're an American, there are some points that you're just going to find like really sad to watch. And obviously, like, there's that scene right at the end where they used to do the running of the Jew, and they had the guy with a big head, just like, and now they've changed it to the running of the American, where you've got the woman with the big head that just says "All lives matter," like, and then just the AK-47 in one hand. Just, oh man,
what a beautiful moment! Because that's basically saying that we know what what this fictitious Kazakhstan and the people thought about Jews before. They thought they were the devil and these evil creatures.
And now
now the American is just as bad, if not worse, than they think. And that's the biggest fuck you to America at the end, isn't it? And how anyone could watch this film, how any Trumpist could watch this movie and then still be a Trumpist at the end of it is scary, man. It is terrifying to me.
I mean, that's at the point where you're so like set in your belief that nothing is going to change your mind. Like, you have this whole hour and a half long comedy which basically makes fun of, like, in reality, how ridiculous some of your beliefs are. And if you're still going to believe them at the end of it, then you're just like, well, there's only as someone who's rational, you could just be like, well, at least you tried. Like, Sacha Baren Cohen tried. He tried to make you go vote and make a difference, but
the only thing you can take these days, or the only sort of condolence you can take, is that you're on the right side of history. That's the only thing, because, like you say, like, especially Trumpists and conservatives and people like that are just so, and left-wing people as well, are so set in their ways and like immovable. But again, if you choose compassion over hatred, then you can never lose.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of going back to Borat's character. At the end of the day, like, he actively chooses like the compassion and the well-being of his daughter over like him being executed, and like and in the end of it, he doesn't lose.
Beautiful moment.
Like,
yeah, exactly, man, exactly. It's got a really nice moral message at the end of it. That's what's great about it. Wow, this got deep, man.
Yeah,
it's got really deep. Does this usually happen on your podcast? Or
no.
Is this first?
This is a first. We'll round this up now. But if you had to give it a score out of 10, what would you give Borat's subsequent movie film?
I'd give it a solid 9 out of 10.
Yeah.
Take a point away just for certain narrative inadequacies, but the first one is a 10 for me, so this is a 9. So yeah, I guess I'd say
I'm probably the same.
I think I'm going to look back and think that it's not quite as good in that respect. However, I saw a review that said, what did it say? Satirically, or was it? I can't remember what the phrase was, but it was something like importantly satirical.
Yeah,
it's important right now. Whereas like the first movie maybe wasn't quite as pressing. This feels like pressing, that this needs to be seen by people, and will hopefully swing a few votes. Who knows?
Yeah, I'm kind of the same. I'm probably like an 8 or a 9 as well. If the first one's like a 9 or a 10 for me, this one's like an 8 or a 9.
Yeah.
The only criticism being it doesn't feel... There are times where I really did feel like it wasn't a Borat 2. Like, it did just feel like a Sacha Baron... Like, an hour and a half. Like, there was a solid, like, 20 minutes, half an hour, where it was like, this is just a Sacha Baron Cohen movie, not a Borat movie. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. They should have
made it a mini-series, man. That would have been cool if they'd made it like an 8-part series or something.
I mean, it's a whole other episode, but I really did enjoy This Is America. Like, really enjoyed it. As much as probably Borat 1, to be fair. Like,
yeah, I did too. I really loved it. The puppy pistol and all that stuff. Jesus Christ!
That first episode, the first episode is like my favorite one. With all of like with all of like the teddy bears as the guns. You just have to feed them, and then you give him a little tickle.
Push its food into his tummy and all that stuff. Oh my god!
And then you have all the interviews with the senators, and then half of them are like, "Oh yeah, that's a really good idea. We should get guns in school." And there's that one guy who's like, "What?"
It was a bit like that. Do you know what that really reminded me of? And you'll get this. Do you remember the Ladder to Heaven episode of South Park?
Which one's Ladder to Heaven? Is that the one with the...
Where were you when they build a ladder to heaven?
Yeah.
So the boys, Kenny's dead, and they're building... spoiler. And they're building a ladder to heaven so they can see their friend.
Yeah.
And it has these vox pops with all the, the people in South Park, and it sort of say, on the news. And they're like, my son told me he was building a ladder to heaven so he could see his friend. I'm so sorry. And then it cuts to Mr. Garrison and goes, ladder to heaven? That's fucking stupid. That's what it reminded me of, that moment. Like, the one guy who's just like, that's fucking ridiculous. Like, just the rational thinker. It was great.
Oh, I love Mr. Garrison. But Mr. Garrison is a whole other episode of how good the character is.
We should do more of these, man. I feel like we had a good flow.
Yes, definitely. I would love to do another one of those, but we're gonna wrap this up for now. Thanks for watching.
Am I allowed to plug? Can I plug my podcast before we go?
Yes.
Is that cool?
Absolutely.
I ain't doing this for free. In lieu of pay, I'll plug my podcast.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Me and my friend Mike host a podcast on YouTube called Matt and Mike Pull Focus, where we talk about movies that we love and movies we like to recommend to other people. So if you could check that out on YouTube and give us a like and a subscribe on all of our videos, thank you very much.
The link for that channel will be in the description, because why would it not be? So
thank you, Jack.
It's all good, no worries. The Halloween video is especially really good, as Halloween is like on the day of recording, 3 days away.
Yeah, 3 days away, man.
I mean, before we go, how are you spending your Halloween?
I've actually got tickets to see Candyman at the cinema with some of my friends who I live with.
Fair. Not the new one.
So, no, unfortunately, no. Did you hear that had been delayed until next year? I think June next year. Yeah. Which unfortunately, I was really looking forward to it, man. It was due to come out in June this year at the cinema. Then they pushed it back to Halloween night, which would have been amazing.
Yeah.
And then unfortunately, it's been pushed back to, I think, June or July 2021, which is a big shame, because I'm a huge fan of the original, and this one is effectively a sequel produced by Jordan Peele. Like, what more do you need?
Yeah, what more do you need? I mean, Get Out. Just go watch it. Go watch it. Like, if you've not seen Get Out, just pause this, go watch it, and
The second time I watched Get Out, it absolutely killed me. Like, I mean, it was literally, I'd not been scared for a long time.
I've still only seen it once. Fantastic. I've not touched it since I watched it. I've not breathed
most great things. It took me it took me till the second time to fully appreciate how brilliant it was. Have you seen Us?
I have seen Us as well. I saw Us
I'm
like
still
2
a bit
weeks
on the...
after.
Oh, did you? I'm still a little bit on the fence about that, but I think I'm just too stupid to like fully get it. I don't think it's the film's fault. I think it's my fault.
Shall we leave it there? We'll do Us in another episode.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Thanks for watching. See you in a bit.